Leafs fam, what is up? This is the Leafs Convo. I am Norman James. The Marlies are going through to the Calder Cup Final, sweeping away Lehigh Valley like they should. 9 straight wins. Are they going to win the jug? Let's hope they do. Mike Augello is standing by. We'll talk about that, plus Laurence Gilman joining Kyle Dubas' front office staff. And I'm going to throw some trivia questions at the master to see if he really knows his Maple Leafs. It's really obscure stuff, but it's lots of fun. Mike's ready to go. I'm ready to go. You're ready to go. What do you say? Let's Leafs Convo right now. And here is the man, the myth, the magic, sometimes tragic, but he's always a legend. The one and only Michael Augello. How are you, Mike?
Good morning, Norman. I'm fine. I'm looking forward to a long weekend here in Western New York, and actually looking forward to the Toronto Marlies going to the Calder Cup Final for the first time in 6 years.
I envision a Norman Rockwell painting when I think of long weekends in Western New York.
I'm not so sure about that, but go ahead.
The Marlies, a 3-1 winner over the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, who are literally ghosts now because they are done. Their season is over. The Marlies 9-0 on a run that's just totally epic, and it just seems like it's not going to be stopped on their way to the Calder Cup Final. Really impressive stuff coming out of Allentown, PA, with the sweep on their way back to relax for a little bit, and then the big championship finale series here in the next week or so. So give me your assessment on this.
Well, Sheldon Keefe made an interesting observation after the first round when they lost 2 road games in Utica, came back, won Game 5, and moved on, and said that was sort of a wake-up call after a team that had won 30 road victories, which I think is an AHL record during the regular season. And if you notice, I mean, they've played pretty well at home. They've not lost at home, but a couple of the games have been close, even going to overtime or double overtime. But on the road, since that Utica series, they went into Syracuse where they were dominated last year. And I know it's different teams, different players, but they shut the crowd up early in both of those games in Syracuse, won both those games in Allentown against the Phantoms. They were very systematic. They got a goal early in Game 3 and sort of coasted from then on. And yesterday it was a closer game. I think the urgency was there from Lehigh Valley not to get swept. But in the end, you know, the quality of the Marlies, and especially Andreas Janssen, who scored the first 2 goals, shone through.
Texas and Rockford are still trying to sort out their differences, rather. And I remember Texas and Rockford as a mid-'70s cop drama, sort of a Carl Malden kind of Streets of San Francisco sort of thing. And now the two of them have come together to collaborate for a conference final in the AHL. Is this essentially, you know, whoever wins this series earns the right to lose to the Marlies? I hate to get ahead of myself, but, geez, this team looks like an unstoppable force.
I would never say that because, first of all, I don't know a ton about Rockford and Texas, and obviously I know that that the Texas Stars are the affiliate of the Dallas Stars, and I know that a couple of years ago the Marlies went down to Texas and lost to them, and I think it was in the conference final. And you know that, I mean, there are probably no players. I'm pretty sure that was Steve Spott that was this coach. That was the coach at that time. So I mean, there's not really a rivalry there. But I mean, I think it'll be a challenging series. Plus, it'll, you know, with the distance between. I think they play outside of Austin, Texas. It'll be a 2-3-2 series, so the Marlies will have to hold serve in the first 2 games, Saturday and Sunday at Ricoh Coliseum, and then have to do what they did against both Syracuse and Lehigh Valley, and that's dominate on the road. If they can do that, then they'll win the Calder Cup.
You have used that phrase or that scenario before on Twitter. Who was it? There was a series taking place, and then you mentioned that whoever wins the series earns the right to lose to Tampa. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So you have used that before. I'm calling you out, Mike. I'm calling you out. So you can apply that to Texas and Rockford. I mean, we don't know much about them, but wouldn't it be so disappointing for the Marlies here to have this 9-0 run, to do what they did in the regular season, to have all of these really sharp, almost blue chip type players doing their thing, hungry to get to the NHL level, wanting to put this feather in their cap and then to fall apart in the final. I mean, stranger things have happened, but it almost feels like it's the destiny of Sheldon Keefe and the Toronto Marlies to wrap this thing up. And at the end of the day, most of us aren't that keen on supporting or getting too hyped up about the minor league affiliate. So to win the championship here is not only valuable for an organization that wants to progress and continue to build, but it's also sexy too to win a championship. The more championships, the merrier.
Yeah, I think it will be a feather in the cap of Kyle Dubas as he ascends to the GM. And he's already the GM, but I mean, he'll be taking control as GM of the Leafs after being GM of the Marlies. And I think his fingerprints are all over this team. And I think it's good for, I mean, just think of a guy like Timothy Liljegren. He gets drafted in the first round last June in Chicago. His stock had fallen. He was supposedly a top 5 pick and then slips to 17th overall. In the span of a calendar year, he's been to a World Junior gold medal game and now to a Calder Cup final. In the next year or two, when he ascends to the Maple Leafs, that is experience that is invaluable. So, I mean, I think that not only for him, but for other players who aspire to be Maple Leafs in the next year or two, this is gold. To play in a Calder Cup final and to be tested in this way is something that you can't buy. It's something that you earn, and I think it'll be sold out at Ricoh Coliseum next weekend, and I think it'll be really good hockey.
Absolutely. The NHL guys are golfing or traveling or doing whatever they want to do with all of their money. The prospects are keen on winning a Calder Cup, and why not? If some of these guys may not get to the NHL, this is a huge thing for them. Get a ring. I mean, it's to say you're a part of a championship team under Sheldon Keefe, put together by Kyle Dubas. Heck, why not? We'll talk a little bit about Eemeli Rasanen in just a few minutes. So his situation, the Finnish draft pick of the Toronto Maple Leafs, 2 years with the Kingston Frontenacs, looks like he's going to be headed back to Finland. But I wanted to ask you about the triumvirate now. Kyle Dubas, Brandon Pridham, and Laurence Gilman coming in from Vancouver. Canucks fans will rip on this move, saying, he didn't do much for us, or he did in sporadic moments help the team, but overall he's left the Canucks in worse shape than it was when he started there. I don't know. I don't really care about that. Kyle Dubas, I trust his judgment, and obviously he's bringing in people to fit a mold, to do something specific to help complement what Kyle has planned. Tell me about Laurence Gilman. Why do you think this trifecta, Pridham, Dubas, Gilman, could work for the Maple Leafs and help this team get to where it wants to go? Because we know what it's all about right now, Mike, taking that next step towards true contentionhood.
Well, first of all, I think that there are more moves to come. I think they will add at least another. I don't know if it'll be assistant GM or director of scouting or something. Of this is the assemblage of the Leafs management staff is not over with. I think that they may bring in somebody with experience, but I mean, everybody that I've talked to, everybody that I've heard comment about Gilman has been that he's a really good, really sharp hockey man. Now he was assistant GM under Gillis in Vancouver, and I know that the stigma of that, but the years that he was there as his right hand man, he did get, and he's responsible for a lot of player contracts. He got players under pretty good deals, taking less money, which is something that the Leafs are probably going to have to do to extend the length of their contention hood, as you call it. And I think he's well respected. He's got a lot of contacts, and with a young general manager like Dubas, I think it's necessary to have somebody who has his tentacles out into the league. He's worked for the league. He's worked for the Arizona Coyotes. He's worked for the Canucks. He helped plan the expansion draft, which I think if you look at the results of Vegas going to the Stanley Cup Final, has been a pretty great success. So, I mean, I think this is a good, solid hire, and he's a really sharp guy, and you wouldn't expect anything different from Kyle Dubas to bring in somebody who's sharp.
Well, he's sharp because he is fully on board with working under somebody who is, I don't know if Kyle Dubas is much younger than Laurence Gilman, but
is clearly younger and has it's not a shot to the ego. As a matter of fact, he probably looks at it as a real privilege to join a team led by one of the sharp young minds of the game. Same for Brandon Pridham. Pridham's a guy who we kind of give him the moniker of capologist, and I'm sure he's eager to expand his role, but knowing that Kyle Dubas has just has the belief in somebody like Pridham to elevate him to the AGM position and to allow him to do more, and have Laurence Gilman come in after he's worked, with the league and planning the expansion draft with the Canucks, now a part of the biggest team in hockey, working with one of the sharp young minds of the game. I mean, this really got to be invigorating for somebody like Gilman to come in and to help augment this crew that Kyle Dubas is putting together. It's exciting times for him. It's exciting times for us. I mentioned this to Gus Kitseros on our last Leafs Convo. You can find that on our YouTube channel right now. For all of the pomp and pageantry and the hype and the expectations that Kyle Dubas has around him and in the position that he's in right now, just show me results, man. Whether it's elevating prospects from the Marlies, scouting players that might be hidden gems, the savvy signings based on the salary structure that they're working with, the parameters that either are obstructive or are allow the organization to make interesting decisions. Just go and do great things. Go and help this team get to the next level. Before we go, we're also going to play a little kind of a trivia contest thingy with Mike here that I've concocted. It's called Famous NHLers, Obscure Leafs. So Mike, start racking your brain right now as we push forward. So we're going to do that before we wrap up, and we're not going to go too long today, another 8 or 9 minutes. I just wanted to thank everybody for their support of the Leafs Convo on the YouTube channel. It's unbelievable. It's astounding, and we're just not stopping. So tell your friends about this. We have a lot of listeners who listen to us and have not made the commitment to subscribe. That's fine. I think as time goes on, people are going to subscribe more and more, because Mike and I are in this to win this, and we're just about providing Leafs content, commentary, and of course conversation, and we're just talking Leafs, man. So Eemeli Rasanen, what's his situation, Mike? I'm just looking at his numbers with the Kingston Frontenacs. 66 games played, 61 games played, 39 points, 33 points. He is a big defenseman, 6'7", 226 pounds. I'm liking the size. I don't know what his mobility's like. He was a second-round pick in 2017. Word is that he's going to play with Jokerit.
Yeah, decent mobility. I've seen him at the rookie development camp. He made the World Junior team for Team Finland as an extra defender as an 18-year-old, and then they adjusted their roster just before the tournament, and he then got dispatched. But I probably think as a 19-year-old, he's going to be on Finland's World Junior team. Now he had a decent year with Kingston. He's been sort of tagging along with the Marlies during their playoff run, which is what they do. They bring the young guys in and give them a taste of what life in the American Hockey League is going to be. But with the Leafs, you can see that he's a developmental piece. He's somebody that they think needs a couple years, and if you have the opportunity to have him go to play at home in Finland with Jokerit in the KHL, playing against adults, and retaining his rights, and also, I think it's a no lose. I mean, he signs for 2 years. They apparently all they have to do is offer him a contract, which I'm sure they did, to extend their rights from just the 2 years, which would mean he would have to be signed before next summer. Otherwise, he'd go back in the draft. It expands from that to 2021, which is 4 years. So, so he'll play 2 years in the KHL. He'll probably play in the World Junior, and then in 2020. The Leafs probably sign him to the entry-level deal. They might even sign him to the entry-level deal next year, and it kicks over one more year. But I think that there's looking at him as a long term, not project, but somebody who just needs to develop, and somebody, as a bigger player, just needs that experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's on their radar, and you have to say that you have to. I would say being enticed by the fact that
Sure.
he's a 6'7" defenseman with size, and he plays with a rough edge.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a guy that they think they need, but it's going to take a little time for him.
When I see somebody that large, obviously you're curious, but I want to see mobility. I want to see fleet of foot. I want to see a player who can fly. And when you're that big, it's a little bit harder to skate like the wind. And this is all about us being agile, being ready to adapt. And clearly, skating is a very important thing. As a defenseman, it's crucial. If any NHLer, you got to be able to skate. I mean, the days of players who could snipe but just weren't great skaters are long gone. And with his size, clearly there are some real pluses to his potential. But I mean, if he can't skate and he's not mobile, I mean that's a massive knock against him, and he's not going to progress much further. But this is the fun part about this organization right now, Mike, is that we have a team at the top that needs some tinkering, needs some augmentation to take that next step. But it's on its way. It's there. It's there. I mean, we're not looking at it saying to ourselves, "Oh my goodness, there are so many holes to fill," and I don't know. Maybe we need to go through another rebuild or half tear it down. No, this team is almost it's nearing contentionhood. I don't even know if that's a word, but that can be our word. And then you have the Marlies almost at the point of winning a Calder Cup, and then you have all of these young players scattered across the globe that Kyle Dubas is now trying to rein in and get a good understanding of. This is a lot of fun. I have a couple more questions before we go, but if you wanted to expand on that, go for it.
Yeah, no, I just think that, and you're going to see the change in the Marlies structure. I think going forward. I mean, right now this year you've had them depend on a lot of sort of veteran guys like Ben Smith, Colin Greening, and that's all fine and good. They're good veterans. They provide structure. They provide support. But I think that the developmental aspect of the Marlies is going to be ramped up even more under Dubas going forward. You had guys like Adam Brooks and Jeremy Bracco who barely played the first half of last season because of the fact that they're so deep, and only when like Andreas Janssen and other players got called up to the Leafs did they start to play well. I think that some of those veteran guys, Martin Marincin, that type of defenseman, Ben Smith might be going to Europe. There's been some rumors about that you're going to see the young players get more opportunities. And you've seen guys like Jesper Lindgren, who was a draft pick from 2015, get signed recently, and Pierre Engvall as well. They're going to play a lot with the Marlies next year. And one of the reasons they probably signed off on Rasanen playing in Finland the next 2 years is it again takes his contract off the books for right now. So he's not on the 50 contract limit, and he gets more playing time, and they have enough young defensemen right now that they're going to put through the pipeline that it probably is beneficial to have him play over there and have guys like Liljegren and Lindgren playing with the Marlies.
You had me at Ben Smith's European adventure. Are we going to give him a little camera and have him just record all of his debauchery and trials and tribulations and
debauchery? I don't know.
Well, you don't want to see that. Hey, this is the Leafs Convo. I'm Norman James, along with Mike Augello. Thank you so much for supporting this podcast. It's amazing. It makes us want to do more and more and more when we see the response that we're getting, and it's just cool. We're just talking Maple Leafs, man. So Mark Hunter took his stick and puck and went home, and now 3 Leafs picks: Pikinich, Middleton, and Matanen. Their draft rights expire June 1st, if not signed. These guys, obviously, these players have ties to the London Knights. So, obviously, this isn't posturing on Kyle Dubas' part. I mean, he's not sending a message to Mark Hunter, get out of town, and all of the players that were a part of your organization, we don't want to be associated with them any longer as either. This is just business, right?
Well, yeah, I also think it's a symptom of the fact that the Leafs are a very deep organization, and they just simply don't have the room to sign everybody. And one of the models of the Shanahan-Dubas era has been to get players locked up on AHL contract, if at all possible. Now, Pikanich, as you know, was a member of the Memorial Cup winning London Knights team in 2016.
Oh, wow.
He played. He
wasn't a Hunter pick either. I don't think he was a Hunter pick, wasn't he? Was he not picked?
No, he was a Nonus pick. He was a Nonus pick.
Yeah,
but he
right,
played, but he was at BU and then went to London under Hunter the next year and played. Anyway, I think he was their captain last year, but he signed a 2-year AHL contract. And from the indications that have been from the reports that have come out, he's going to stick with the Marlies and the Leafs organization on that AHL contract. So he doesn't need to be signed to the entry level deal, and then they'll see what happens after next year. He's only 21, going on 22.
Yeah.
The other two, Matanen was a London Knight prospect who got moved to Flint and now is playing for Hamilton in the Memorial Cup. His agent is reporting that he will talk to the Leafs after the Memorial Cup and maybe a deal will get done. Middleton is going back in the draft. So, I mean, this is, one of a number of draft picks that, not all of them turn out, and the Leafs had so many picks in that 2015 draft, and some of them just fall by the wayside, and that just is normal. But we'll see what happens before June the 1st. But it should be interesting to see if they get Matanen locked up on a contract.
All right, Mike, I want you to scour your Leaf knowledge. Are you ready to play famous NHLer, obscure Leafs?
Sure.
The Leafs Convo started with Mike and Norm just a few years ago, but it's you who will take this podcast into the future thanks to your amazing support. We'd like to offer special recognition to Dr. Faisal Rahman of London, Ontario, for his dedication, commitment, and contribution to this podcast. Dr. Rahman has been a major backer of sports projects, ideas, and innovations throughout London and beyond. His involvement in helping the growth of the Leafs Convo is not only appreciated, but a true honor. Thank you, Dr. Faisal Rahman.
And we are back. Michael, you ready to go? I want to test your Leafs knowledge.
Okay.
All right. These might be softballs. They may not be. We shall see. And you will be judged and admonished or lauded. I played for the Maple Leafs. So this is famous NHLers, obscure Leafs. I just made this up last night when I was half asleep. It'll probably not work, but we'll give it a shot anyway. So I played for the Maple Leafs in the 01-02 season. 4 games. I was a goaltender. I had won 2. I lost 2 games. I had a .909 save percentage, and my goals against average was 2.74. I played 4 games for the Leafs in the 01-02 season, so most likely in 2002. What is my name?
That would be goaltender. That would be former NHL Calder Trophy winner and 2-time Stanley Cup winner Tom Barrasso.
Woohoo! Congratulations, Mr. A. Nicely done. He was the fifth overall pick in '83, and I'm looking at these stats through Hockey DB. I mean, one of the greatest resources any hockey fan could ever utilize. So the 1983 draft, Brian Lawton, first overall pick, Sylvain Turgeon, Pat LaFontaine, Steve Yzerman, 4th to Detroit, 5th, Tom Barrasso. And hey, Toronto took Russ Courtnall with the 7th pick that year.
Yeah. That's not a bad pick, and remember, it's funny because followed the NHL. The Sabres had 6 first-round picks in 3 years, and I'd say arguably 3 of them are Hall of Famers or Hall of Fame caliber. I don't think Barrasso will ever get in the Hall of Fame because
are those the Scotty Bowman years, Mike?
Yes,
was he coaching?
Yeah. Scotty Bowman GM, and so he took Housley, Andrechuk, and Barrasso, but Barrasso's caustic personality may keep him out of the Hall for a while.
Yeah, I think it's Scotty Bowman when his numbers are finally dwindling. Is he going to admit that his one great regret is not leading the Buffalo Sabres to a Stanley Cup championship? I mean, it's like, I won 15 cups, but it was the one I didn't win with Buffalo that will always.
Well, when Scotty gets away from the bench, that's the problem. I still think that he was a phenomenal coach, possibly the best of all time, but he was an average general manager at best. You look at some of the picks. Yeah, you look at some of the picks that he made in Buffalo. You know, Yuri Dudicek, who was a first-round pick, who was a Czech, and they expected him to defect. And I think his father was a colonel in the KGB, so it's like it wasn't going to happen. So anyway.
Well, yeah, the first round, this 1983 draft, of course. Tom Barrasso picked 5th, Russ Courtnall to the Leafs at 7. 2 picks later, Cam Neely to Vancouver, and Buffalo had the 10th and 11th pick that year. Normand Lacombe.
And Adam Creighton.
That's awesome. Hey, Bruce Cassidy, the 18th pick to the Chicago Blackhawks. 21 teams that year. All right, so Mike, you're 1 for 1 in famous NHLers, obscure Leafs. Tom Barrasso was the answer. So the next one, I played for the Leafs 80 games between the 2000 or 99, 2000, 2000, 2001 season. I had 15 goals, 24 assists. I was a plus 16, and I played with the Leafs in 1 playoff run, 12 games. I had a goal and 2 assists. I played from the 99 to 2000 season, and then into the 2000 season the next year, 2000, 2001. Famous NHLer, obscure Maple Leaf. Forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm. He played 5 seasons with the Washington Capitals. He played with the Kings, the Bruins, and then he went back to the Capitals. And then, of course, he wrapped up his season with Metallurg Magnitogorsk.
Yes, the almighty Dmitry Kristich. Yes.
Bang, 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 bang. Way to go, Michael.
Well, I'll tell you, because every time you bring up when I wrote columns for Hockey Buzz regarding the biggest mistakes that the Maple Leafs made, the Dmitry Kristich situation was always near the top, because there was some sort of loophole. I never got the actual situation straight, but basically the Leafs, he was with Boston, and the Leafs were going to sign him. And it was a loophole that they eventually gave Boston a 2nd-round pick instead of just filching him off their roster. But the one thing that was that wasn't positive was the fact that when they brought him in, Steve Sullivan, who they had acquired in the Doug Gilmour deal, was essentially released. And he was picked up, I think, by the Chicago Blackhawks, either Chicago or New Jersey. And, of course, Sullivan went on to be more successful in the NHL than Dmitry Kristich. So, typical.
Those weren't the days, Mike. And it's amazing. I thought Dmitry Kristich played for the Leafs in the mid-2000s. It's just the years are piling up on us. Before we go, Vegas Golden Knights, Washington Capitals in the Stanley Cup Final. I have to go with – I want the Capitals to win because, look, Alex Ovechkin – one of the greatest scorers ever. He's provided us with so many incredible highlights, incredible hockey moments. The least we can do is keep our fingers crossed so this guy can win a darn cup, right? No?
No, not for me. I've never. Don't get me wrong. He's an immense. Hall of Famer.
Sure.
I've never liked him as a player. I in terms of his attitude. I mean, just on the ice. Okay. I know nothing about him off the ice, but I'm just saying, he's one of these guys as a superstar player who probably should have been suspended 2 or 3 times for cheap shots and hits. That wasn't because he was a superstar. Now, do I think he's, an all-time great? He could be he's probably the greatest sniper of this generation, probably rivals guys like Mike Bossy and Guy Lafleur. But I honestly don't want to see him win a cup. I would like to see the Cinderella story play out. I'm full on for the Vegas Golden Knights. I know that some members of Leaf Nation are not, because they see 51 years of ineptitude or frustration.
That's petty. Come on, man.
Yeah, and it is. And honestly, it's like, that's not the fault of the Vegas Golden Knights. That's the fault of the Leafs organization not being able to put things together. So I made a prediction yesterday, and I'm sticking with it. I have Vegas in 6 games.
Fine, Mike. Don't agree with me. Have a good one, buddy. We'll collab soon, okay?
Thanks, Norm.
What'd you think of my little game show creation? Famous NHLers, obscure Leafs. Did you like it? Do you have any players who come to mind that we can stump the great Mike Augello with? DM me at I Am Sports Heart. We'll go from there. I just wanted to say thank you again for all of your support from our podcast on Anchor to iTunes to the mothership, the YouTube channel. Things are blowing up right now. If you've subscribed, we appreciate it very much. If you're thinking about subscribing, just go ahead and do it. It'll be worth your while. We have so much great stuff in store. It's all about Leafs content, commentary, and of course, conversation. For Mike Augello, I'm Norman James. It's been a lot of fun. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.